the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Call Haloyim, Yahweh Bashem, Yahushai Bashem Rakatash. There's no digital pistol to the 12 tribes of Israel. You know, to so-called, Negro, to so-called Latino, to so-called Native, to so-called West Indian. What we're called on the West Hemisphere. Where we're scattered to the four corners. Double honors to the elders and apostles who've been laboring in this truth. And honors to any brother pushing on the likewise doctrine. Or any brother or sister believing on the likewise doctrine. In the last days. Scary, man. Scary days, man. Authoritarian bells are ringing, but also, joyful days, man. Especially with that Fed now come out, Yeah, they ain't wasting no time.
Examines how Israel's military of occupation around the world. That's the title of a new book by the Australian journalist Anthony Lowenstein. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Palestine Laboratory, How Israel Exports the Technology of Occupation Around the World. That's the title of a new book by the Australian journalist. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Palestine Laboratory, How Israel Exports the Technology of Occupation Around the World. That's the title of a new book by the Australian journalist Anthony Lowenstein, who examines how Israel's military-industrial complex has used the occupied Palestinian territories for decades, he says, as a testing ground for weaponry and surveillance technology that they then export around the world. Anthony Lowenstein is the author of a number of books, including Disaster Capitalism and My Israel Question.
Isaiah 23, Isaiah 2:3, and many people shall come. Isaiah 2:2, shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and be exalted above the hills. All nations shall flow onto it, and many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, or thy power of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his path. Out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord Yahweh from Jerusalem, or Jerusalem. And all this applies to the people in the land today, except for you get to the point when it says for go out, or for out of Zion shall go forth the law, man, because that's not coming out of these small hands, man. Especially they got these hats on, man. They got the custom of Jason the High Priest. You don't think some of these things, especially when you especially in Old Testament, everything's made so you're in the culture. Some things don't need to be so reiterated to a T, man. So you got these small hats, man. You shouldn't even be wearing hats, man. You go into the word when I say cover your head or whatever, you go into the word. It's talking about turban. You can go into the translations, man. Because they're pushing the customs of Jason the High Priest, man. So you already know the law, already not get going forth. They ain't no pushing the law. They teaching oppression, man. Oppression's not the law, man. They're pushing the law of mistress, not the law of the Lord, man. And they tell you that this was the establishment of prophecy, man. Even it's all video trend on Facebook. Even Jake, you be seeing, you always see you saying Jake be trending, man. He be up there with Amalek, man, and Amalek religion, man, trying to justify their religion, man. Or he's trying to put down so-called, the black culture and their customs, and yeah, it's definitely, that's definitely very low, man. But why are we here like that? Why are you comparing what the so-called the blacks don't do, to what the small hats do? But we were more like we were just like y'all, man. We were better than y'all, man. Financially, until y'all came in and introduced y'all Marxism into the church. The Negro Project. 501c3 charters. Lyndon B. Johnson.
He was based in East Jerusalem between 2016 and 2020. His most recent article for the Sydney Morning Herald is Being Jewish and Critical of Israel Can Make You an Outcast. I should know. Anthony is joining us from Sydney, Australia. We welcome you to Democracy Now!, Anthony. Your book has just come out. What do you...
How could being critical of Israel make you an outcast? If when the people get back to land, according to prophecy, Isaiah 2:4, he shall judge among the nations. He shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and beat their spears into pruning hooks. Nations shall not lift a sword any more, neither shall they go to war. Neither shall they learn war anymore. So these people aren't even supposed to be learning war, but you even criticize the war. You're an outcast. When Israel, when these people get back to the land, man, these people are going to be as God. We can get that in Zechariah, man.
mean by the term the Palestine Laboratory?
Thanks so much for having me on, Amy. What I mean by that is that the occupation of Palestine by Israel is now the longest occupation in modern times, 56 years and counting. There's obviously been an occupation of sorts since 1948, but particularly since 1967.
In that day shall the Lord in that day shall the Lord Yahweh defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. And Saul killed thousands. So there's not killing thousands. You're not gonna find an Israelite male who can't get killing 1,000 last week. Either's not gonna be doing that. David can tell them 1,000, so 10,000 minimum, man. The minimum male Israelite will be able to take back Jerusalem, or he would have been able to take back Jerusalem. Just solely based on physical capability. In the kingdom. But that is feeble, and that they shall be as David in the house of David, the 144,000 men, the elect men, shall be as God, as their power, man, as an angel of the Lord Yahweh before them. What angel can destroy the world, man? It's gonna be a God among gods, man. Forget being God among men, be God among gods, man. So you don't think rebuke don't come with that, man? You're gonna be rebuking the nations. What's gonna be the point of having weapons? The spiritual power gonna be what people gonna need. You could, if a certain thing can't be used for tools, it ain't gonna be made for a weapon, man. The only close they gonna see, you can make a energy sword or something. You gonna have that dominion, but you can't rebuke, man. You're an outcast. You're not gonna have to teach thy neighbor.
And during those years, what Israel has done very successfully from its perspective is find various tools and technologies to maintain and control Palestinians. And what they've done during that time, what Israel's done, is increasingly export those tools and technologies, but also those methods, those so-called counterinsurgency methods. So what I look at in the book, both being on the ground in Palestine for many years and also through declassified documents and various interviews across the world, is that you find in over 130 countries across the globe in the last decades, Israel has sold forms of anything from spyware, so-called smart walls, facial recognition tools, a range of tools of occupation and repression that have initially been tested in Palestine on Palestinians. So, in other words, what I'm saying is that the occupation of Palestine is not staying there. It's not a conflict that remains geographically based just in Palestine. It's become so-called global Palestine.
How would you describe politicide, a term you use?
Politicide, I think, was a term that was coined by Baruch Kimmerling, who is now the late amazing academic. And he was talking really about the concept of a desire within many in the Israeli elite to find ways to destroy Palestinians. That not necessarily just through killing them, but also through extinguishing their political identity, their political self-determination. And when looking at it from the outside, one could argue that in some ways Palestinian resistance lives on. Your last segment talked about that very strongly. Palestinians mostly have not left Palestine. They remain there. But certainly from the current Israeli government.
Psalms 36:2. For he flattered himself in his own eyes until his iniquity to be found, or iniquity be found to be hateful, man. We're watching that, man. He flatters himself, put himself in the Holy Land, said he's a chosen people. till this iniquity, man, till all this gonna catch up to him, till his enemies, the Lord built up his enemies, man. They gonna have to call up America, back him up till World War III, man. The words of his mouth are iniquity and deceit, and he hath left off to be wise and to do good. And you goes out to some white people, man. So they're good with all that reparations because they don't need it, man. Because they just are so good. They're just amazing how they just been through slavery and da 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 da. You know, white people would talk about them being slaves in Egypt, but you've been slave in their land. You've been Jim Crowed in their land. You've been redlining in their land. What consideration they have for you? You don't need it, man. You just gotta lift up yourself, but they don't. You know, so, like that's the wisdom. He devised mischief upon his bed. He set himself in a way that is not good. He abhor not evil, man. Let me see, man. Weapons, drones, surveillance. All he has been doing, man. You know, Amalek. You know, you got the you know, you got the National Socialist Party. Your descendants, you know, of Klaus Schwab, of the Baccarat family, you know, the Rothschilds, you know. They have changed their names. They came in, they overthrew Russia, trying to subvert their economy, subvert their country. Um, and then I said to Germany. Yeah. Did they still? Well, got their way into the Holy Land. So most of them, scientists, man. I mean, really, a lot of them, not like calling me a double agent, man. But when he was talking about y'all people, man, he called y'all, he exposed all y'all, man. And people want to talk about like him, like he dumb and whatever. Just go, but it's how it's how Kanye has definitely been used to say something and make things seem very dumb. But in the lens, if you're looking through the lens of the world, you can't say nothing to Kanye. He right, he was messing everyone up. If you're a Christian, why can't you say you love the National Socialist Party? You love everybody. According God loves Adolf small staffs, according to Christians, man. I mean, do we believe that the Lord loves, Adolf small mustache? No. But we don't believe that God loves everybody, man. He hate Esau, he ate the whole race. So, and he really ate all that he didn't do. So no. But according to the Christianity, God loves all these genocidal maniacs. He may not love the sinner. He love Young Dolph. What's it called? He love Young Dolph, man. He don't love all the action of the 6 million people that didn't live in our land because the numbers fabricated. But I said he loved them. But but he's not really just saying that. But he's saying, why can't we love them, man? If we could say we love the small hunts, if we could love America, we could say that because all this technology came from them. Now all this technology that was coming out of that's really been spread up by America, Russia, and Israel. Those type of things that we see in AI now, and we see with the AI draw himself. Man, he drew himself as a Amalekite. Man, this technology is made in his image, man.
I would argue for decades, there has been a sense that there's a way to crush Palestinian aspirations, their views, their political reality, their future, their horizon. And by doing so, Israel has increasingly marketed that to a global audience, including in its whole identity as an ethno-nationalist state. It's arguably the most successful ethno-nationalist state in the world, a Jewish supremacist state. And growing numbers of nations around the world, from India and others, look to Israel with admiration and inspiration.
We just covered Modi and the lavish reception he got by the president of the United States, Biden, with the state dinner last night, the joint session of Congress. Talk about a little more about how India looks to Israel.
Look, what India is doing under Modi, of course, is not solely because of Israel, but traditionally Israel and India were not particularly good friends.
Who's the largest arms supplier to Israel? The largest arms supplier, the largest shares of arms imported to Israel between 2000 and 2019 was from the United States, which was 82%, followed by Germany. So man, it's just Esau and Amalek, man. It was the second largest exporter, with 50%. You know, U.S. exceeded $9.6 billion. Man, you more Edomites, man, buying from these people, man.
Last 10 years or so since Modi took power in 2014, there's been a real ideological alignment. But the relationship is really twofold. One, it's a defense relationship. So India buys huge amounts of technology, defense equipment, spyware. I interview a number of people in my book, individuals in India, lawyers, others who are spied on by Israeli spyware, particularly Pegasus, by NSO Group. But also there's an ideological alignment, a belief that many Indian officials in the Hindu fundamentalist government there are openly talking about admiration for what Israel's doing in the West Bank and wanting to do something similar in Kashmir. And what I mean by that is they say that two reasons. One, because Israel gets with that no one's stopping it. There's a complete state of impunity that Israel has globally, really. But secondly, this idea of bringing in, according to India's view, huge numbers of Hindus to Muslim-majority Kashmir to settle that territory, to build so-called settlements.
Wait, stop right there. Listen, stop right there a minute. Man goes into a restaurant. You listening? A man goes into a restaurant, he sits down, he's having a bowl of soup. He says to the waiter, come, taste the soup. Waiter says, is there something wrong with the soup? He says, taste the soup. He says, is there something wrong with the soup? Is the soup too hot? He says, will you taste the soup? It's wrong. Is the soup too cold? Will you just taste the soup? All right, I'll taste the soup. Where's the spoon? Aha. Aha. What do you know from funny, you bastard? Aha. What do you know from funny, you bastard?
He said it, man. He said, Ezekiel 36. Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, Ye mountain of Israel, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because thine enemies thus said against you, Aha. Said, Aha. Even the ancient high places are ours. Hmm. So what are we doing? Son of man, man, you Israelite, man. We fell from that son of God state, man. So we're dying as men, man. Not even exalted among the heathen nations, man. Uh, onto the mountains, when we're saying unto the governments, man, saying unto the government of Israel, man, we're saying unto the, we're saying unto the, the heathen, the people claiming the heritage, man, you know, people claiming the customs, claiming the book, man, we're claiming to these Christians, man, claiming to the small hats, man, we're claiming unto the people in the land, man. We cut them down with the word, man. Told them that, man, that they pointed, man, the holy place to them, man. Hear all this nonsense, man. The Holy Land is in Guyana. Yeah, the small ass should have picked Guyana, man. They could have had that easily. They could have been cool, bro. Out here getting blown up, man. Getting messed up in 2006, man. 2006, man. The brothers who be into the word, who be studying, man. That's how you know, brother, man. You could tell if he could receive the word. If he a like brother, man, you know, a good chance that he really into that war prophecy, man. If he onto false doctrine, man. If he into that war prophecy, man, you could get him there. You could get him to see through the prophecies, man. If he not, man, he focus on everything else. He focus on Jerusalem and Atlantis. Looking at all these extra maps. Like, man, the understanding of the word, man. You gotta understand prophecy to understand everything else, man. You gotta understand that, you know, going into these maps, most of these maps will bug you out, man. Because you gotta think maps are through the perspective of people, man. You go look at, different maps now, different sizes based on these people, man. But we know the only two people given to have a world dominion. was Jacob and Esau, man. So you have to look at that to understand according to who would have an accurate map, man. Solomon, the Israelites. The Israelites that was sailing. Jacob really been sailing to the to the American man since the Roman Empire, man. Back and forth, man. So you gotta know when to follow Jake is when these other niggas start to get the map. So Moab had maps. The Turks would have some maps. I mean, I know Moab had maps. Uh, of course, all the Sephardics. Jake in Europe. Jake in Negro land. They was sailing here. Gold tip spears. So niggas got the maps through Jake, man. Here's how you know all your conspiracy theories. If a brother into all these nonsense, all the America was the old world. Verse like you show him the prophecies, a true brother, man, who was meant to, who really worship the Lord in past life, man, come back through reincarnation, man, he gonna understand. Therefore, prophecy and say, thus saith the Lord, how about Shem Yahshai, because I have made you desolate and swallowed you up upon every side, ye might be a possession upon the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers and the infamy of the people, man. And these small hats are infamous, man. This is what they got to turn up the propaganda. They know, man, that that Udiism does not exist without 1948. It's not even really a word that a concept that really started coming up until the 1600s, man. We just found our heritage. It's so hard to define when you really go into our history, man, because you know, you go into history, man. Jake fall on being Christian, and Jake met identifying with his heritage, believing in Messiah. That's whole two different thing context, man. In the Middle Ages, but man, they took the Holy Land, so they ain't going to no goddamn Guyana. I mean, that was an idea. They should have took it. They didn't do it. And they get messed up, man. That's one, man. All this conglomerate of these nations are coming against Amalek, man. And who is he talking about? Japhet? Japhet? Therefore the mountains of Israel hear the words of the Lord thy power. Thus saith the Lord thy power to the mountains, to the governments, and to the hills, to the smaller governments, and to the valleys, no, into the rivers and the valleys, and to the desolate waste, to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and a derision to the residue of the heathen that are all around about them, man. And to America, to the mountains, to America, man. These these EU countries, these big powerful governments, man. To these hills, these smaller governments, they might be in the EU, they might be in NATO, like Greece, they might not have that much military power, to the rivers, to the valley, river water being associated with people, and, rivers, and you build civilization around water, man. And like Euphrates drying up, man. Like, rivers are so important, to trade. It go, you're gonna force people to war, man. Rivers, even to the desolate waste, man. All these forbidden cities. You've been a prey to the residue of the heathen. So even like places like Yemen, I imagine would be a perfect example for that. That all the residue of the heathen, man. You know, for the petrodollar, you're trading the right to use the U.S. Army wherever, man. That China, out here just solving, man, bringing peace. That's how you know they know, man. That's not the beast, man. That's not Esau. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, surely in the fire of my jealousy I have spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all of Idumea, which have appointed unto my land in their possession with the joy of all their hearts, with despite despiteful minds to cast them into prey. Ain't talking about Idumea, man. Who was in the land? Aha. Even the ancient hard places are ours. Who's that? Idumea. You can't tell me it's in Guyana. You can't tell me it's in California. It's in the West Coast. It's in possession of the Idumeans. Not Northern Kingdom. not Northern Kingdom, man. Far you is set far from that borders, man. So, man, this is not supposed to be happening in the Holy Land. Look what he's doing.
Of at least 78 migrants whose boat capsized in the Mediterranean Sea. Hundreds more are still feared missing. An aerial image shows dozens of people crammed onto the upper deck before the boat flipped. Wow. Most were not wearing life jackets. Around 100 people were rescued. One survivor told doctors he saw around 100 children inside the hull of the boat, which Greek officials believe left Libya on a voyage to Italy. We're learning more about the deaths.
They know you coming, man. They got the Pegasus. They get WhatsApp. They say they look through your WhatsApp. They got the Pegasus, man. But you got all these foreigners. Why can't they help people?
Calm seas, more people are. Up to 30 people are feared drowned in the second migrant tragedy
Got drones letting people drown, man.
in as many days in the Mediterranean. Amid warm weather and calm seas, more people are attempting the perilous journey in rickety boats.
Letting these people drown, man. At least these people should be in change, man. Being professional servants, man. But he told Edom, man, he come in peace, but to destroy. So he gonna make it seem like he benevolent, man. Hide in their councils. We ain't gotta hide nothing.
From Libya to Italy. More than 7,000 have been rescued this week alone. In the latest disaster, at least 80 migrants were pulled to safety after their vessel overturned. As many as 30 more, though, are feared dead. On Wednesday, a large fishing boat also capsized off the Libyan coast. Over 500 people were saved, but at least 5 migrants lost their lives. Europe's deal with Turkey stemmed the migrant flow across the Aegean Sea to Greece, but last month a senior EU official said alarming numbers of migrants were reaching Libya to cross the Mediterranean.
Yeah, when the Israelites come back, why didn't that shit stop? Man, I mean, the Israelites going over the seas, man. Bro, how you beating your swords and pruning hooks, man? But Israeli arms sales doubled, 12.5 million.
In the past 3 years, more than 10,000 men, women and children have died trying to cross this stretch of water.
Akin to what Israel's doing in the West Bank. And I think there's a really disturbing ideological alignment. I would actually make the comparison between Israel and India today to Israel and apartheid South Africa back in the day. Nations that were very, very close ideologically and got inspiration from each other in the belief in Israel's case, of course, being a Jewish supremacist state, and India's case being increasingly a Hindu fundamentalist state. And that to me is something that should concern people, including the US president.
So, Anthony, you talk about a Jewish supremacist state. I'm wondering if you could talk about your own background, something that you take on in this last piece you wrote. Being Jewish and critical of Israel can make you an outcast, I should know. And talk about your family, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, those who died in Auschwitz, those who didn't survive the Holocaust.
Most of my family, sadly, Amy, like most Jews who lived in Europe, perished in the Holocaust, including Auschwitz. And the ones who got out and escaped Europe, particularly in 1939, just before the war started, escaped to wherever they were given a visa, Australia, Canada, the US, elsewhere. And the ones who came to Australia, when I was growing up, I was born in the mid-70s in Melbourne. Israel was not the center of their lives, but Israel was seen as a safe haven. For those who don't know, as a Jew, I can go to Israel tomorrow, and within a few months, I can almost certainly.
It was not seen as their homeland. And if you go look at the definition of Israel,
be a Jewish citizen if I can prove that I'm Jewish. And I think for many Jews, including my family, there was a real reluctance and in fact a hostility to any kind of Palestinian reality, Palestinian story, even to meet Palestinians. I mean, as a young Jew, I never met Palestinians. And I think there is a change going on. But certainly when I started writing about this issue around 20 years ago, I wrote a book in 2006 called My Israel Question.
a citizen of the state of Israel, a citizen of the state of Yasharallah, you know, Hebrew national as a nationality, not as part of that nation, you know. That word is flipped, you know, newspeak. As an adjective, 1948, it distinguishes from the citizen of the modern state from the ancient people who have been known since the 14th century. So that word, not even 100 years old, not referring to an Israelite. Israelite. A Jew, but that word's not even used in the Torah. I think it's first used in like Second Kings. But um, but one of the people of ancient Israel, descendant of Israel and Jacob. So these are two distinct definitions, man. And how Esau, the worst thing that ever happened, one of the worst thing that ever happened in history. Although Cromwell got took down, Esau controlled the printing press, printed all this information. When
There were attempts by the Israel lobby in Australia to censor the book. There was attempts to pulp the book. There was condemnations of me in Parliament. I mean, it was ridiculous.
they got control of the printing press, man. And but these people, these people will push one narrative to their people, man. These Amalek were definitely being persecuted for how they robbed our our whole, how they robbed all economies. They robbed, because even though, young doll, small mustache, he was a descendant of the Rothschilds. Klaus Schwab was a descendant of the Rothschilds. So how they done devalued the currency so much, man. They destroy economies, man. They rob it, man. That they were able to buy Germany's artwork for $1 billion. So that's the first thing that Small Mustache did. He came in, he bought the art piece, and they kind of put that propaganda around it. But when you kind of understand, the concept, well, they try to make like he was just like a villain. He was just entitled to that. But you understand the concept. And like really devalue currencies. I walk past a property. Is where I live? It's been managed by the Rothschilds since 1849 or something. You go understand the railroads. You understand that Rothschild really enslaved everyone. They did everyone so dirty. Couldn't even, no matter, you could not complain about your worker. You'd be cut off, man, from the whole industry. They wasn't playing by Amalek. So yeah, there was that the smaller Amalekites, they catch the heat of I mean, it's not even, and let's be honest, the coercion is, it may not be amongst the smallest Amalekite, but at medium upwards, he kept it. So, well, they telling you just get your homeland, using this to justify this extreme narrative that you could go ask these people if you ever go watch them Tel Aviv interviews. He says, "Oh, do you think that you're not if you think you're not one of the people, do you still have right to their land?" They say, "Yeah, man, because it's convenient, man."
The book became a bestseller thanks to all that ridiculous controversy. But over that time, my parents, both of whom lost most of their Jewish friends because it was the sins of the son. I was being critical of Israel. I was trying to humanize Palestinians. And I'm not the only Jew, of course, who was saying this. And I'm really encouraged in the last years. In Australia, the US and other Western countries are growing almost like a Jewish insurgency against, particularly an older generation of Jews who doesn't want to humanize Palestinians and somehow believes that Jewish identity should be tied to Jewish supremacy. And so for me personally, I don't claim to be a victim. That story that you referenced at the beginning sort of gives a bit of a potted history of my life, but also explains that one does pay a price for it. One does pay a price as a Jewish person. I'm a secular anti-Zionist Jew today, but I feel often that there is a real moral collapse in much of the Jewish diaspora in the last decades. It is changing, but not nearly fast enough.
Anthony, we were talking about the horrific shipwreck last week of migrants, maybe up to 700 dead. Can you talk about Israeli technology used by the European Union to surveil and target asylum seekers?
This really shocked me, years ago when I started doing some work on this issue. The short version is that the European Union in the last years after 2015, when they were, in their view, overwhelmed by particularly Muslim refugees from Syria, Afghanistan and elsewhere, didn't want to ever repeat that. And they put in place almost the fortress type Europe, which has occurred in the last years, which is a range of...
And Isaiah 49:6. And he said, "It shall be a light thing. It is a light thing that I should raise up. I should be my servant." If he said, "It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and restore the preserved of Israel. He will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be salvation to the ends of the earth." And Christians coonery. But what that mean? This wouldn't even make sense, man. Because the Lord not dealing with them, especially even at the time he was not dealing with them. He said he would deal with them, even in the 10th generation. But when you understand the word, you understand that like you're supposed to be hand in hand with the Israelites. But when it comes down, when you get down to the New Testament, he says that it's not lawful to keep something like with a heathen there. I know I'm butchering it, but or not to keep coming to him who was not a Jew or something, right? Please, or bring you brush the dust off. You didn't even want the heathen dust, man. But you understand, this is all about the Israelites being grafted back in, man. That they should receive salvation, man. A light to the Gentiles, man. We gonna be a light, like how Solomon and Sheba, man. We're gonna put the Israelites on, man, and they're teaching ways how to. You have your laws. You come, you pillage, you destroy, you enslave these people. You send them to, and kick them out, and put them into a new slave colony. They go get their independence. Their whole financial system is in debt. You create a system to where if your homeland is destroyed, you could come here, and you create systems to not even be able for them to seek asylum. They're not calling their diaspora to repentance.
Tools and technologies to keep people out, mostly Muslim and brown and black bodies, of course. And part of that arsenal is using Israeli drones. They're unarmed, but they are flying over the Mediterranean 24/7, and they're used mostly by Frontex, which is the EU sort of border security arm. And they're the eyes in the sky, essentially. So they are sending back all these images 24/7 to Warsaw, which is where Frontex is based. And the EU has made a decision, of course they don't admit this, but this is the reality, of letting people drown. This is the new policy. There are very, very few rescue boats. The EU barely rescues anyone. There are some NGOs that are trying to do so, and I deeply admire what they're doing. So the Israeli drone becomes a key arsenal and part of this infrastructure of essentially allowing people to drown. And to me, it really goes to the heart of why Israeli drones are used by the EU, because they were battle tested in Palestine over Gaza in a number of years in the last 15 years. And you see this almost Israeli border industrial complex exported across the US-Mexico
Land war no more.
border, for example. There are massive amounts of Israeli surveillance towers made by Elbit, which is Israel's leading defense company, dotted across the border. It's a key part of the US arsenal across its border with Mexico. And why was that company chosen by the US? Because, of course, it was tested first in Palestine. So, to me, the real concern in the 21st century is, as the climate crisis worsens, as resource wars are worsening, as refugee numbers have never been high since World War II, many Western nations are sadly making a choice to not welcome people in, as we saw with the recent awful shipwreck or disaster in the Mediterranean, but in fact to build higher walls and more surveillance. And Israeli surveillance and technology and repression is part of that arsenal that many nations are now buying, because it's been used, in their view, successfully on Palestinians in Palestine.
And you have evidence of the United States in particularly controversial situations working with Israel to perhaps have, for example, in Guatemala, Israel work there so that the United States won't be held responsible.
Absolutely. One of the things I document in the book really clearly is that over the last 50 years, a lot of nations that the US was close to, Israel almost became an American wingman, often supporting, arming, training nations the US even couldn't do officially because of some issue maybe in Congress. And that did include nations like Guatemala, including at a point where they were committing genocide against their indigenous populations.
Yes, it can monitor.
If prophecy says these people are supposed to not learn war no more, the people aren't even supposed to learn war no more, and these people are teaching these people. David didn't even have to learn how to fight, go into training. Oh, I'm gonna beat David. That's based on strength. Give me that armor. Give me that sword. Give me that best armor. Give me that sharpest sword. Give me that arrow. Give me that colors. Give me that. Give me that accent armor. No, give me 6 rocks for them giants, man. For them Hamites. For them Philistines. I believe they were. Give me 6 stones for the Mizraim, for the Egyptians in the Holy Land, I believe. So that's what that faith, man. The Lord teaches hand to war like mages, man. He just uploaded. Like how, whether that showed us really into the Bible. Probably not even, man. He probably got that story the same way Neo learned how to ride the motorcycle, or whoever did that, learn how to fly. Trinity learned how to fly the helicopter. If that was ever someone else, man. The Lord downloaded in your spirit, man. Cause it's really not about, Jake really be pushing that witchcraft, bro. Jake be pushing that spells and all that magic. They be telling you the prophets was doing magic, man. But it's not about training. That's not faith, man. We fall to the Lord, His righteous way. And when the time comes, man, the Lord could put it on you, man. We just been brought down to such a low level, man, before the highest level, man.
Your location. And it can do all of this without you ever knowing. With just a single text, it can bypass your phone's security and install spyware that grants complete access to your device.
It can access every message you've ever sent. It can access every message you've ever received. It can access every photo, every video, every email. It can turn on your microphone. It can turn on the microphone even when you're not using a phone call and just record what you're doing in the room. It can turn on your camera. It can record what's on your screen. It can access your GPS. It can monitor your location.
And it can do all of this without you ever knowing. The spyware technology that makes this possible is called Pegasus.
Pegasus is probably the most advanced piece of spyware ever developed. It is effectively the most invasive form of surveillance imaginable. Any idea that you had that aspects of your life could be kept private and on the mobile phone are wrong.
So if you are someone who thinks that you're safe because you use WhatsApp, which is end-to-end encrypted, or you use Signal, it really is meaningless once that Pegasus is on your phone.
Pegasus can infect both iOS and Android while remaining virtually undetectable.
So one of the ways that Pegasus will attack your phone is through what's called a zero-day vulnerability. This is a vulnerability that the phone's manufacturer doesn't yet know exists.
Pegasus is the main product of a company called NSO Group, which is an Israeli surveillance company.
So the people who are using this spyware are government clients. These will be governments around the world that the NSO Group have sold a copy of Pegasus to.
A Guardian investigation can now reveal widespread abuse of Pegasus by NSO's government clients.
The reason this investigation is so extraordinary is that we at The Guardian have gained access through Forbidden Stories to a treasure trove, tens of thousands of records.
The leaked records include the phone numbers of thousands of people who have been selected as potential targets by governments with access to Pegasus.
Before, we had an inkling that this technology was being used in an abusive way. But now the doors have been just thrown wide open, and we have a much greater insight into the scale of the abuse that has occurred.
Israeli got a hit list. You don't think America got a hit list? You don't think they got an NWA? I mean, they got a red list, man, but they probably they got a list, man. They got a list of prophets, man pushing the word that it's fair season, man. When the blackouts hit, they on you. Even maybe before the blackouts, they got a arrest. But they might have a list for all them, man, who just believe in the doctrine, man. They just not even just the doctrine, man. They want no form, man, of Yahweh Shem outside. Ukraine gotta kill this, man. You just gotta. You could be a half honest reporter, man. Get put on that list, man. You just turn your camera on, ask questions, man.
Just because a number appears in this list, it doesn't mean it was definitely hacked. But in some cases, we've been able to go and check. We've done forensics on the phone that the person was using at the time. And in dozens of cases, we found traces of either an attempted or a successful Pegasus infection.
What we know about NSO Group and what they've said for years is that this is a law enforcement tool. But I think what our investigations really revealed is the extent to which that is just a complete, fantasy narrative.
The implications of this software being used widely are effectively an end to privacy for the people who are targeted by it. That has very, very serious ramifications for how people who have legitimate secrets, which is everyone, go about living their lives. The most serious implications of something like Pegasus is that it makes it much more unlikely that a dictatorial regime will become democracy. Because those were already regimes and systems that were obsessive about trying to monitor their populations so that they could control them and prevent them from rising up and overthrowing them. And this technology exponentially increases your capacity to do that.
I do believe it poses a greater threat to democracy. It's exposing that a lot of these technologies that we think are meant to keep us safer on our phones, and even if we're somewhat aware of it, that they're really not keeping us safe.
Isaiah 14:1. For the Lord Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, and he will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the stranger shall join them, and they shall cleave unto the house of Jacob, man. And them strangers are still Israelites, man. You might be, you might be dealing with a woman, man. You're in the truth, man, and she might just, she might repent and she might deal with you. She may not understand, man. She gonna know the Lord dealing with you, and she gonna believe in you, man. She gonna believe in the power that's dealing with you. She may be, may be elect, man. Maybe a great multitude, man. Could give a prophet, water to pass life, man. Women who are kind of, they might not necessarily be in the truth, man. But they warming up to it, man. Or you might have some immigrant man, FEMA camp. He running up, man. But you see everyone tripping, everyone going crazy, everyone see your brother just cool. He interested, man. That might be a Northern King brother. He might speak to Spanish, might give him a doctrine, man. Might help him out, man. That might be a stranger that cleave on to him, man. But and they shall bring the people that right, and the people shall take them, and they shall bring them into their place. Sorry about that. I thought that turned off. My bad if I hurt your ears. But the people shall take them and bring them into their own place. The house of Israel shall possess them and take them into the land of the Lord of Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, of those captives who they were, and they shall rule them. They shall rule over their oppressors, man. He'll tell you, man, we're the people in Egypt, man, the other Edomites, man. One day in chains and enslaved Israel, man. They took that, man. Didn't Israel take that, but they had to give it back, or maybe they took the land they wanted, man. But either way, man, these people are working with these people, man. Those where the slaves, man. Where the people in the slaves in the land enslaved to the people of our forefathers. We are supposed to be back in the Holy Land, according to prophecy. We're supposed to be taking captives and possessors, man. We don't gotta do all the BS. We ain't gotta use hyper authoritarian technologies to deal with. No, we just gonna have the power given to us by the Lord. We ain't getting anything that's. We're not trying to achieve anything that wasn't meant for us, created for us to receive. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, from thy hard bondage, within thou hast made to serve. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath thy oppressor ceased, and the golden city ceased? The Lord hath broken thy staff of the wicked, and the scepters of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he continued to rule the nations in anger, and is persecuted, and none hindered, man. We're about to see that, man. He smote the nations, gave everyone the technology to persecute, man. And that's why, you know, the armies, man, the heathens have built themselves up. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. Broke forth in singing. The fir trees rejoice at thee. The cedars of Lebanon sing, since thou are laid down. No fellows come against us, man. The Christmas trees will rejoice, man. Ain't nobody gonna be cutting them down, man. Hell from beneath thee is moved to meet thee at thy coming. We stir up the dead, man. All the heathen nations, even all the chief ones. The kings of these heathen nations of the earth. They shall raise up the throne, the kings of all the nations, and they shall speak and say unto thee, thou art weak as we, art thou become like us, man? Like, America's a third world country in a Gucci bag. We're gonna see that, man. There were, all these terrorist attacks, man. America blowing up, pushing apartments right now, man. Putin, man, really Putin pussy, man. He keep trying to join Babylon, man. He want to just make money. No, man. They ain't gonna cease no prophecy. He don't want it all. He don't want all the money in the world. It's not about money. He love money, but he want to be God, man. You know. So they're gonna be like, man, you as weak as all us heathen, man. We worship you, man. We was dark, man. We resulted your whiteness, man. We did, we oppressed the Israelites, man. We changed our own heritage. We changed everything, man. Y'all the only ones that kept the biblical name. Even they ain't no country called Ishmaelistan, no. Even if they say they understand it from Israel, man, they don't, you know. And they're still pushing their confusion. Cause the Arabs make money off of that's Babylon, man. Changing their name, all this racial confusion. Um, thy pomp and thy pomp is brought down to the grave. The noise of thy vials, the worms have covered thee, and the worst is spread under thee, and the words have covered thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, from that rulership, thou Lucifer? Oh, Lucifer just means light bearer, man. Esau been claiming he been bringing the light, the knowledge, man. Bring that white Jesus, he bring everything, man. That science, the mark, the son of the morning, the morning star, the first star. I think that's Venus, the first star to show up, or whatever was supposed to be the first star to show up, with the sun of the constellations. How art thou cut down from the ground, which did weaken the nations, man? The Marxism, the bombs, man. The bomb of 26,000 bombs, man. The nigga ran out of bombs. So many bombs, even Barack Obama, man. His name's not Barack Obama. He didn't choose that name for no reason, because that's a lot of 26,000 bombs. Nigga ran out of bombs. Like Elon. But did Elon fall apart? No. It's because they're not Jake. I mean, it can't be prophecy. And they didn't, and prophetically, they're not going to accept all that nonsense. Like, we did, they did it. They got rid of it. They know it's not bad. They're not like the ninja woman. They're not like the ninja man, who just will do anything to please. He knows whether what he's doing is right. Even something more traditional would work for him, and then anyways, he's just gonna justify whatever his moral compass is, whatever the woman go with, man, because it's a path the easiest resistance, man. That's the ninja. And the ninja woman not changing for nothing. She know, but benefits until she, you know. Um, For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yahweh Samuel side, above Yahweh, above the Israelites. He's doing that with the mark, man. You see how Klaus Schwab talking? That's literally putting his throne above God, man. And sitting there, man, telling you, man, dude, we don't need God anymore. We're doing more than he can do. He can only create organic. Get in there. Bro, we're talking so much nonsense, man. Man, I will exalt my throne. Almost for thou I said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit in on the mount of the congregation in the side north, man. He's sitting in Jerusalem, man. I will ascend above the heights of thy clouds, and I will be like the Most High. And he's doing that through his Pegasus, man. He really is the eagle, man. Obadiah, man. He like the high flying eagle, man. He's sitting in a car. He's sitting above the stars like God. He claimed to went to the moon. He got sad, like looking at everybody, looking down, like God, like God and Santa. You know how people talking about it, man. There are two forward men. People say, God see everything. And people see Santa. Dude, that's why people don't believe in God anymore. That wicked nigga, dumb, smart nigga, man. Charlamagne talking about, I don't like dumb people that saying, my kid's saying it real. Why they believe in God? But he don't know what he believe anyway. So, same reason why he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't teach it to his kid. It's the same reason why he don't know what the fuck he believe. It's hilarious. But you know what I mean? And let me see exactly, man. They put Santa in the mountain of God, in the congregation of God. They put an Edomite in the congregation, and He see all your sins. So your kid's not even really behaving, truly behaving. They don't grow up behaving like all my kids, and they would appreciate Christmas more. They understand my parents work hard for these. You won't give it to credit to a white man, and then I see everything. So your kid's not even growing up being obedient for the laws of the Lord to receive stuff, to receive physical objects. And when they're done, they go, oh, that's bull. So they're just gonna drop all that behavior, man. That's a main core belief of why your children are trash, man. You put this idol Santa, man. These niggas pagan, bro. These niggas, how can you blame Howard Shai, who people literally call Jesus and Santa at the same time, man? These niggas, man. That's idolatry, bro. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, and I will be like the Most High, man. He got the Pegasus. Yet thou will be brought down to hell to the sides of the pit. He will. And they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake its kingdoms, man? You don't think Elon felt like that, man? How many 7 empires? I mean, and it still ain't come past, because really, Esau could come back in there, man. I mean, it seems like they're working with the Taliban. They'll probably turn. But, you know, when your political interests, man, align more with China and Russia and how they got all the Muslim countries, you know, you're probably gonna turn. But you know, they especially about to see, man, in World War III, man. You know, they fought 7 empires, man. So it's gonna they gonna look at Esau like, wow, bro. Already, Elon, all these nations, damn.
That many of those nations, Guatemala, Honduras, Chile, under Pinochet, a range of other nations in Latin and South America, although of course it went far further, including in Africa and Asia, was that these nations were really attracted by the idea of learning the so-called skills that Israel was gaining through its occupation after 1967. How was it managing the Palestinian population? How was it repressing them, essentially? And there's huge amounts of evidence through declassified documents and interviews, much of which is in the book, which really goes to the heart of showing that the US.
Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Hashem outside thy power concerning Edom. I've heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, an ambassador is sent among the heathen, man, the prophets. Arise, you let us rise to battle, man. We spent out the prophecies, man, that World War III, man. As our forefathers, our spiritual forefathers did, man. You know, 60 some years prophecy. And so you know, telling it, bro. That's how you tell somebody if their doctrine is real. If it's real, not whatever you pushing. America, the old world, Jerusalem, some other place. Every Israelite who do not believe, who woke up in the past days, have woke up to be condemned. If that's not true, because that's not has not been treated forefront. You know, say what you want about these Israelite groups. We still have there's still a core belief, even if it's getting peeled apart, because they want to destroy the flock, but it's still MK Ultra, so it has to be seen around the true doctrine. You have some, you know, so you have some groups. I mean, all groups are pushing you away from Yahushua, but you know, if some codes hope groups that just took the one Yahushua through the spirit, the brothers called it, and they said we're not even calling them one body Yahushua, it's just one body, because they know Yahushua in that. They keep, you know, taking core pieces of the doctrine, one of the worst doctrines in Israel, and I think they did take it off, just one body now. But the other content groups, they gotta keep a core belief to at least, you know, seem like, you know, the man pushing on the true doctrine, man. You know, GMS and their affiliates. So Quantum Pro could come after them. You know? So, you know, there's still a core amount of beliefs, man. So you gotta tell these Israelites, man. So if they stuck on some dumb doctrine, man, every Israelite who don't believe them, they condemn, man. I can't tell you the Jerusalem and the Holy Land would be wrong. That's such a core belief. I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that the Northern Kingdom, not the Northern Kingdom, or you know, or you know, Negro only Israelites. You know, but so they're all black. You know, all the Northern Kingdom people you think are Northern Kingdom, all the Hispanics, they're Mongoloids. How many you're pushing somebody to preach something that's off. So either people believe in something wrong, or people don't believe in, and they can't say you're wholesome because you're pushing false information. That's on you, man. And that's why we push the doctrine, man. You gotta push the doctrine. You know that props. Probably props and part. So this portion of the spirit, man, the portion of understanding. Now you've had times where brothers could have woken past. Receive that salvation through the spirit, man. To when they come back from incarnation, to when they come, when the Lord come back, they gonna receive it. So when the brothers were saying this, when the scene far out, when people could really enjoy what's going on in there. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised, man. Amalek is greatly despised, man. You actually got people telling you got people from the other heathen countries sending letters, man, telling us you are the Israel. Wake up. We want the kingdom. We need the world. We need you. Yes, you want us to be mine. But still, it's 1,000 years you gonna have to work that off. Maybe since you already you coming in that Rahab spirit, you might be a little preferred. You know, you might change the bed sheets. you know, but now pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou dwelt in the cluster of the rocks, man. They dwell in the high-rise buildings, man. Why you want to live in Israel? You don't live in a high-rise building. Live in condos. Whose habitants is high. Thus saith the Lord in thine heart, who shall bring me down to the ground, man. And we're seeing that he set himself high. All these high-rise buildings above 3 stories. That's wicked, man. You go watch. Like 9/11 when that blowing up. So many stories, man. That how much people died, how much debris, how much thou shalt exalt thyself as an eagle, and though thou set thyself nest among the stars, hence will I bring thee down, man. He said, and he exalted himself above the evil, highest flying bird, man. You got bird's eye view. This Pegasus is that bird's eye view, man. If thieves come to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they have not stolen till they had enough? If grape gatherers come to thee, would they have not stolen enough grapes? And it's really, man, now they got this. Like he said, man, it's not really about democracy. We just want a country with liberty. But you know, we got this Pegasus. He's gonna stop being authoritarian. He come for it all, man. He want every inch of it. MOTV, man.
Israel became almost like invaluable partners during that period, to the point where today, look, America remains the world's biggest arms dealer. 40% of the world's arms is sold by the US. Israel is now 10th. And just last week, in fact, Israel released its 2022 arms figures, 12.5 billion US, the biggest amount ever. And 25% of that was going to Arab autocracies after the so-called Abraham Accords, the Trump deal from a few years ago. So we're talking about Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and others. So what are they selling? They're selling repressive technology, spyware, intelligence gathering, a range of other tools to prop up US and Israeli-backed dictatorships in the Middle East. So this is what the Israeli arms industry is about. Like, this, to me, is not just a moral failing, but a really dark stain on the Jewish legacy 75 years after the...
It prophecy said nations shall not learn war anymore, and you're teaching the nations, and you're literally going. It's not even that the other nations are learning war. It's that when America legally can't really train the military, they send the Israeli forces to go. And so that's even funnier. And also, a lot of these police are trained by the Israeli Defense Force, so they're extremely aggressive. So, I mean, they do link the BML to the Palestine to demonize them, but they really don't want no smoke. You're not really gonna. There's really no organization that's really. It's just fashionable to say that, but So how police treat people, and it's crazy, bro. When I was in doing training to become a security guard, yeah, you definitely see these police officers have that IDF energy. Even security guards, man, they have that IDF energy because they have that training and that mentality comes from the IDF.
Like, this is what we've become. We, meaning the Jewish population of the world. The legacy seems to be backing and supporting and arming the worst regimes in the world.
Let me ask you about something you mentioned earlier, and that's NSO's Pegasus. Explain further how it's used and how it is used to infect the phones, for example, of journalists, some, for example, who are in jail, like in Morocco, as you talk about the Abraham Accords, Omar Hadi, who we interviewed before he was imprisoned and has been now for several years.
Pegasus got a lot of attention in the last years, as viewers will know, as probably the most known or infamous Israeli spyware. Essentially, it's a tool that allows any government or military intelligence or police department to spy on someone's phone, iPhone or Android, and get all the information from that phone. And it's popped up in dozens and dozens of countries around the world. And I spend a lot of time in the book interviewing some of the victims of that surveillance in Togo, for example, in Mexico, in India. And Mexico, interestingly enough, is the biggest user of Pegasus by far. There is an absolute addiction in Mexico, both under right-wing governments and the current nominally left-wing government. Governments don't want to give this tool up. And it's not just Pegasus. Of course, there are many other Israeli companies doing the same thing. But one of the things that I explore in the book is that so much of the media in the last years around Pegasus missed the key point. It was almost framed as a rogue Israeli company doing terrible things around the world. But in fact, companies like Pegasus actually are.
And like, think about it, man. Like, it's a sin to number Israel. That the Lord had to send an angel. He had to put niggas down. That angel was killing, man. Angel ready, slaying, man. Kill, 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 nigga. Yeah, I'd rather have an angel come against me than a heathen. But man, angels ready to do what the Lord say. But we see why that's why we gotta love the Lord, man. Like, that's our Father, man. Like, that's our, our genetic father, man. Our spiritual father, our literal father, man. We all come from the waters of Judah, man. That's our Father, man. He's perfect, man. We gotta understand, man. He loves us too much, man. And we see why that shit has to be taken so seriously. That I believe it was a choice between war with the heathen or angel come slay, and I support, man, because we get to see these surveillance states. Why would you want to give it up? Even these Israelites, why would you want to give it up? Are you gonna really use it to come against the cartel? Because even if you did have the resources to come against it, like the Colombia, man, you're so close to America, and how this is CIA backed and funded. You're really going to the war with the CIA, at least. I mean, like, bro, like, I think there's a drug bust. It's like the CIA versus the DEA. So you really have different parts of the government who really don't know about the crimes that the other parts of the government are committing, and they literally are going to war with each other with different factions of the criminals. That's all eating for you, bro. That's white people for you, bro.
Only private in name. They are based.
Can a kingdom like that stand? You just so powerful, so much rich. You got CIA working with the cartel. You got the FDA trying to go against
arms of the state. Netanyahu and the Mossad, who have been going to various countries in the last 10 years, I document this in the book, and this has also been shown by Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, often go to nations like Saudi Arabia, Rwanda, and others, and they hold Pegasus and other tools as a diplomatic carrot. If you support us in the UN or elsewhere, we will sell you the most powerful spyware in the world. And it works because it's been sold in UAE and Saudi and Rwanda and many other repressive states. So unless there is a complete ban or massive regulation, which currently does not exist at all, these technologies will continue. And even if NSO Group disappears tomorrow and it's currently in financial crisis, many other companies do exactly the same thing, and which is why Israel is now one of the leading spyware exporters in the world.
Well, Antony Lowenstein, I want to thank you so much for being with us, author of the new book, The Palestine Laboratory, How Israel Exports the Technology of Occupation Around the World. If you want to see our interview with the now imprisoned Morocco.
They export occupation, man. No, man. It's only going to be Israelites, man. We just going to export. I believe we're going to be traded, slaves, especially notable ones, man. Like Klaus Schwab, I'm going to make sure a lot of you brothers get a lot of these wicked men. Call Haloyim Yaham Bashem Yahshai Bashem Rakatas. I pray this was an edifying lesson.